We acknowledge that we are on Treaty 6 territory, the gathering grounds of many diverse First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples whose footsteps have marked this land and whose presence continues to enrich our vibrant community.
Hello and welcome back to Research Recasted, the Knowledge Mobilization Podcast. I'm your host, Brooklyn Listichen, and for today's episode, we are introducing our new host for Season 4, Kelsey.
Hello, everyone. For today's episode, we are going to be joined by Bruno Campos. Bruno Campos is an assistant professor in the Bachelor of Design at MacEwan University. He has almost 20 years of combined teaching and industry experience, bridging digital experience design and visual communication design, including topics such as information design, infographics, interaction design, UI UX design, and branding.
All right, well, thank you for being with us today, Bruno. I'm really excited to hear about your work.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Perfect. So I just would like to start off with, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into design?
So back in the day, looking for universities and stuff, not so sure about what to go for, but always enjoying drawing during any of the regular classes, right? And then I heard about design that would be more towards the industry and less artistic. I don't consider myself like an artist, more of like a marketing or an industry person per se. And so when I heard about it, so what do you do? So all these visuals, like stationary projects and then visual projects for both print and websites and stuff. So yeah, it got me to it. And also I was a gamer, right? So playing games was like, oh, maybe I can design some games. But then on day one, my professor told me, yeah, perhaps. I said, okay, all right. But we'll go with that. And I enjoy it since then. Yeah, really enjoy it.
Is that how you kind of decided to become a professor?
No, the professor thing came afterwards. I had a very nice professor during my, so we were one of the best, right? So when I was taking my undergrad degree, and he became a mentor, he became then my supervisor for a bunch of projects, so I think it was because of him more than anything. And then we had a conversation, and he told me, yeah, so you should be taking like extra degrees, right? So a post-secondary, and then go for a master's, go for a PhD, so you can get more opportunities. And yeah, that's how he got started. Yeah.
Very cool. We're going to get a little bit into your research now.
Right.
So you mentioned that you work with Juiciness and Juicy Design. Can you explain a little bit to us what that is?
Sure. So the first question is like, have you played Candy Crush?
Yeah.
You have, right?
Yeah.
So it's not only, or another example would be Fruit Ninja as well, right?
Okay.
So I know that it involves fruits and everything, but it's not the main thing. So Juiciness is when you play a game and then with little input, you have lots of feedback and it feels rewarding, right? So like slicing a piece of banana that is flying on top of the screen, and then it has all the splatters, all the sound, and then the particles that will fly, the animation system. So everything that happens based on a single input from the user or the player, right? And then provides like this feeling of like, oh, give me more, like that feels so good, right? Or when you complete a level and then you have sounds, sparkles and everything, you did it, 3 stars, all happening at the same time. So yeah, Juiciness is about that, feeling rewarded, but also in a good way. So it has to be well designed as well.
And so what are kind of some of the technical aspects to that?
So the technical, it's not that expensive to make, right? So it involves adding these layers of feedback, such as sound effects, particle systems, animations. So basically, it would be the final layer of the game or the interactive experience, right? Once you have that completed, you add these extra and see if you can make players more engaged and if you can increase the appealing of the game and everything. Yeah.
So with your kind of history of doing like marketing, industrial sort of work, how do you add juiciness to that work?
All right, so that is a good question because my background actually doesn't involve games at all, right? So when I graduated, I was a pure graphic designer. So in basically doing design on a piece of paper, right? Or static design online, and eventually some animations here and there. So when you're doing animations, then that's when Juicies would come handy, right? So basically, it's the idea of having an animation that will think about a ball that will move from left to right on the screen, right? So you can add different types of curves to that animation and make the tween. That's how we call it. So it comes from the word between, right? So what happens in between the point A to point B, or the start and end, how you make that animation more interesting. So it can be slowing down the beginning and then making it faster at the end, or the opposite, or make it bounce, right? So then I think I try to incorporate that whenever I had a chance to create animations, right? So animated banners for internal and external communications like websites and stuff. But I think I applied Juiciness like beyond that, because even if you go to one of my classes, you see that I try to create a very relaxed environment, right? So telling lots of jokes and making students sometimes like uncomfortable, but in a good way, in a good way. Like, so you see, like, this is how I want you to feel in here. So come, it's going to be a fun class. We're going to laugh. And I totally believe that through this feeling of like happiness and laughing, you will feel like, I don't know what I like about that class, but I like it. I go in there, I feel good. And then maybe they will remember one thing or two, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Love that. So we'll get into your research a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned that the use of design and infographics has been more present in recent years. Why do you think that is?
That's a good question. So infographics, they've been out there since forever. So it's the history of graphic design, right? So we go about cave painting and all that, right? So informing something, telling a story, and then we evolve today where you have charts, bar graphs combined with other pieces of information, right? So then my research, it investigates specifically interactive infographics. So the static ones, yes, they can be juicy, but they will still be static, right? So all the concepts behind Juiciness, they involve this idea of animations and like things that are moving around the screens or interactions in general. So I'd say, and then like my current state of the research is like, do we have Juiciness on interactive infographics for now? So I've just finished a paper that got submitted, and I did a study on almost 200 infographics, right, online. And since the year of 2010, I guess. So almost 15 years of infographics. And I was trying to look for, do we have these particles? Do we have screen shakes? Do we have sound effects? Do we have like all these rewarding feeling based on a single thing? And the answer will be on the paper when it gets published. Yeah, but yeah. So that is the initial idea. So do we have it present yet already, or at the current state of infographics? Yes, no. Is it identifiable, or can we explore that further? Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Why do you think it's important for these infographics to have juiciness and like for it to be like, I guess, that interactive?
So there will be research that talks about interactives versus static approaches being more interesting on the user end, right? Because they are co-participating. It's not only like if I give you this, right? So I mean, with the bottle water, you can interact. But if I give you a piece of paper and then I ask you to read that, sure, your part of the interaction is just like receive the information. But when it comes to be interactive, you're inputting. So based on one input, you get some information. It's almost like you're building up the infographic along with the designer, right? In a structured way and everything. So they have scripts and all that. So being interactive is one thing. And then the juicy part will be like, and that's also a question. Does it get in the way? So maybe you have say an interactive infographic that talks about tricks to teach to your dog, right? So fetching, throwing a ball, giving ball, or sit down, laying down. And then you can have like these beautiful animations where you do some motion with your finger or with your mouse, and then the dog will, there's a nice animation of a dog in there that will repeat to that. So at the end, the question is, do we actually get the information, or yeah, no, forget about it. I just want to play with the dog in here. I don't even care, right? So I'm trying to find that out. Hopefully, it will, like at a certain level, will get people more engaged in being able to collect that information and retain that for a longer period, right? So, oh, I've learned something from there. It is really cool. And also like the idea of like spreading the word, right? So becoming viral and everything. But yeah, so this is something that is one of my hypotheses in there. So do we learn something, or does Juiciness get in the way of it? Yeah.
That's really interesting because, like, obviously you want to make things like super fun and interactive. I never thought about it getting in the way of actually retaining information. So that's a really interesting perspective.
Yeah. So let's say if you play GTA, right? So which is a game that we know what it is about. But you have some stuff that you have to do in there in order to save money, make more, and all that. So you own business, you do some trades, right? And you can invest on the stock market. You can do all these type of stuff. But seriously, like nobody pays attention on that side of things, right? Unless you are a researcher and that you're doing these type of like asking these type of questions, right? But my idea, and I think my research is pioneered because it is the first one moving outside of the game design field, right, and exploring Juiciness elsewhere. So nobody has done that before, which is pretty cool, right?
Yeah. Now, with like the demand for these interactive infographics and the use of design and Juiciness and stuff, do you think that will allow for more job opportunities in the future?
Seriously, I don't know. Like we have companies here, even in Edmonton, that are working with interactive data visualization. Can we mention?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think they're called Dark Horse Analytics in here, and we have one student that graduated from the design program in here, and she works in there, right? So the main sources, or the places that these designers would be working at would be like newspapers and big TV broadcast companies. So basically places that are trying to inform something. And they will have their own department of like data visualization or information design, right? So to display these informations. And I think it's like another job, right? So you have the opportunity to work with that, but you have to be really focused on that specific area. I don't think it would be like, oh, I'm a designer, I want to be doing infographics. We have 2 or 3 courses in the program that are about information design. So maybe you get the feeling and you want to really go deeper and explore different ways of presenting information. But yeah, I think there are opportunities in there, especially with things becoming less physical and paper-based and more digital. I think we have room to explore for sure.
Okay. Okay. Now, you've been talking a lot about video games, so I just want to like touch on that a little bit.
Sure.
And you did mention that you had some experience with game design, and I want to ask, how did that start? Where did that start?
Yeah. So the first experience again was through teaching, right? So back in my hometown. So I'm Canadian now, but I'm from Brazil. Back in my hometown, they were opening this new program in game design. And I went there to talk to the coordinator of the program, and he told me, we need a designer that is also a gamer. All right, so I'm right here. Let's go. So so because we need to teach them the tech aspects of the game, but not like how to design a game, right? So here's a character, here's how you make them move and everything. No, the concepts behind it. So why are games important? How can we make use of games outside of only the entertainment business, right? So serious games and all these other approaches, right? And then, so that was my first contact, being like a game designer in a way, but a game design teacher, I guess. That's always the best description. Then when I moved to Canada, I moved in 2016. In 2017, I got the opportunity to work for a company in Montreal that is called, it's an initiative that is called Youth Fusion. So in French, it was Fusion Jeunesse. And we were a bunch of a group of project coordinators, and we would go to high schools, teach kids on how to create games.
Cool.
You would have programs for game design, graphic design, theater, TV production, and all that. So I was in the game design field. And then in there, it was like, oh, now I have to teach myself how to create games, right? And I taught myself 2D game because it's the less complicated, and we go for these games that are these applications that are visual script based. So you don't need to know how to code to create a game, which is pretty awesome, right? So the kids love it.
Yeah.
You should see the eye of a kid the first time that they draw a character, and then you apply a behavior to that character, and you go them, okay, so now press the up arrow, and then the character jumps. So it's super cool to look at. And then, collecting coins, adding to the score, eliminating enemies, making them jump, right? So adding all these cool things little by little. So that was my first experience like designing games, but every single time as a demo, right? And now for my research, I'm creating prototypes that will be, again, research-based. I've never worked for the industry yet. So we'll see, but I'm happy with how things are. And again, I think I like to teach those tools more than anything, right? And then see other people doing the magic with it. Yeah.
Do you find at MacEwan when you're teaching, is that the area of games and entertainment usually things that your students want to learn, or what aspect of design are they looking to pursue?
So we are actually incorporating 2 new game design courses to our program, right? 1 and 2, where they will learn the basics of like the game design mechanics. And every single time that we talk about games, people will go like, okay, PlayStation, Xbox, right? Or PC. And sometimes you remind them of, but do you know that we have like board games as well? Card games and everything. Oh, right. Yeah, we do have those. Yes, and they are really nice too. And like from a graphic design or a design perspective, they make sense, right? Because you get to print the cards, you get to print the board, you have to make like a nice packaging for everything, and they like it. They have to think about the rules and to create a user manual to teach on how to play the game. So I think we're starting, but the design department itself, we're making connections with other departments. I'm so sorry, but I won't remember the name of the professor right now. But we have a specific professor from the computer science department, and he's the game professor around. So he's the one that is working on game initiatives, and I still have to talk to him. And then we have the game that was created in collaboration with them by 2 professors of our department, Professor Isabella Sperano and our chair, Robert Andruko, and they worked on the game Life on the Edge. And I think we're starting, right? So we're starting to work on things here. We'll see. Yeah.
Really cool. So just a couple more questions before we run out of time here. Was there anything that we missed that you want to talk about?
Not really. I think, and I talk a lot, right? So when you're talking to teachers, you have to expect that, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, I think we covered everything. It's nice to be starting these, exploring this opportunity of seeing how Juiciness would fit outside of the game area and all the other papers and research that were published. And we have a PhD thesis and also master's dissertations. Every single time at the end or the conclusion, we suggest that people should be exploring the use of Juiciness outside of the game design area just to see what would be the impact. So yeah, let's try it out.
Yeah. Well, also too, I was going to mention earlier, it's interesting to see, because obviously you're getting little dopamine hits from those specific aspects of Juiciness. it'd be interesting to see the marketing perspective if that like motivates people to buy that product.
Right. Yeah. To buy something, I guess. Yeah. But from my perspective, when it comes to interactive infographics, it's more of a thing that you access to learn about something, right? So say there's an event such as events that are happening in the world. It could be COVID, it could be a war, it could be a catastrophe that happens somewhere. So you go to one of those places and you learn more. So what about if we make like the actual explosion happens as an explosion, right? So do we get more shocked about it, or do we get more, oh, that actually gives me a sense of how things happened and all that? Yeah, so we'll see.
Okay.
Very cool. And then our final question is, do you have any advice for any listeners, faculty, students, or any advice at all?
In terms regarding
It doesn't have to. Yeah, it doesn't have to be about your research or anything. Just like
Oh.
any advice that you would give to somebody.
All right. Okay, I do. So remember to breathe every single time, right? So breathe in and breathe out. I know that every single time students will come to me and say, "Oh my God, I don't have the time to submit that assignment. Please give me more time." All right. So let's discuss that, right? And another thing, if you have a chance, like, and that's especially again to students, right? And to I guess to instructors that are not full-time faculty members, if you have a chance to teach, even for 6 months, go for it. It's really cool, really rewarding in every aspect of it. So give it a try. I think it's worth it. I love it, and I always recommend people. So if you have a chance, go for it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being with us today and sharing your experience and more about you. It was great.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
Well, that's all we have for today's episode of Research Recasted.
If you want to support this podcast, you can visit Research Recasted on your favorite podcast platform to find new episodes every 2 weeks. Also, don't forget to check us out on Instagram, where you can leave us a like, give us a follow, and send us any follow-up questions you may have from today's episode.
This has been Research Recasted, a knowledge mobilization podcast brought to you by the Office of Research Services and the Faculty of Fine Arts and Communications at MacEwan University.